A large-scale exchange of nuclear weapons will produce unprecedented amounts of radiation that can penetrate into the biological tissue. Okay, this is the question, right? Do you think there is an error, or do you think it's okay? What do you say? I want you to read carefully, and then let's look at where the error is, or where do you think the error is. So we have the sentence is divided basically into three parts, right? The fourth part is just which says no error. So the error either has to be in part A, part B, or part C, or it may not be at all in any of the parts. The sentence can also be an error-free sentence. Any guesses? Okay, so what we'll do is, as a practice, I will give you about 30 seconds, right, which is the decent amount of time that we can spend on each question, and then we're going to move forward. So you've come back and said part B is where the error is. According to you, why so? What do you think is wrong with part B? Right, you said part B is where the error is. So what is the error in part B? Okay, so you've come back and said, hey, let's replace amounts with amount of, right? A large-scale exchange of nuclear weapons will produce unprecedented amounts of radiation. Okay, so in terms of amount or amounts, right, both are grammatically correct and accepted. And here in the context, we are referring to nuclear weapons, which is more than one weapon, right? So in terms of quantity, amounts, there's nothing wrong with amounts. You don't have to necessarily change that, right? That's not where the error is. Can you think of any other area where you feel the error could possibly be? So let me give you an example, okay? So I could say, what is the amount of salt that you put in this dish, right? So there we're talking about how much of salt did you put, right? So there either I can say a large amount or a small amount. Yeah. So in the context here, we're talking about a large scale exchange of nuclear weapons. So in terms of a plural noun number, amounts is fine, right? You don't have to really change amount to amounts, and that's not where the error is, in fact, right? I would say it complements the plural noun number weapons. But anywhere else, are you able to identify anything else as an issue? Or I could say, she served the soup in small amounts. Just to give you another example with amounts. So grammatically, that's not where the error, but the error is actually in part C. If you look at it, it says that can penetrate into the biological tissue. Your word is penetrate, right? Penetrate itself means what? Something that is going into something, right? So that into is very superfluous in nature, which means it is an unnecessary preposition there, right? So this question has a prepositional error. First of all, let me throw the context to you, right? It says penetrate into. So what is the meaning of penetrate? So this is to do with, I would say, a superfluous error, okay? And I don't need that into, because penetrate, if I look at the meaning of penetrate, right, that itself means, what does it mean? Pass into something, right? Or you're forcing your way into. So this word by itself covers the meaning of into, to enter into something. Yeah, so this into again is unnecessary, it's not needed. So this is an unnecessary preposition that I don't need. Okay, obviously this is a prepositional error. Part C is where the error. So I can look at this error as, either a prepositional error or a superfluous error, right? Remember, in terms of types of errors, right, I can put this in the category of being superfluous, which means I don't need this extra word, unnecessary word in the context, or I can look at this as a prepositional error. Okay, I give you some example sentences, so let me do that, right, just to put it out there. Amount, right? So when you're referring to something as an amount, basically the meaning that you're bringing in is how much of it, right? And that's why I gave you an example. I can say how much salt how much amount of salt did you put in this dish? Right? You don't say how much amounts of salt. You say how much amount of salt. But for amounts, right, I'm going to write it here. So basically, when would you say, it's in the plural, when you're referring to a plural noun number, right? So I can say large amounts of money were wasted, right? Or I could say increasing amounts of force are necessary. Yeah, just to clarify the difference. And usually if you see, there are exceptions, but mostly amount, is followed by a uncountable number, noun number, amount of work, amount of salt, right? The amount of work that he had to do was horrific. Okay, just to for you to understand the difference. So in the context, we're looking at nuclear weapons, we're looking at a plural noun number, so amounts is fine. Yeah, that's. Remember, we're going to spend some time understanding what are all the possible prepositional errors, but let's move on. Young children should not sit close to the TV set as it affects on their eyes. Young children should not sit close to the TV set as it affects on their eyes. So where do you think the error is? As soon as you read the sentence, you might be able to figure out where the error is. Right? Something might sound incorrect or awkward, but let's look at it quickly. The only thing that you need to do is remove the on in part C, right? It's an unnecessary on. Why? Because you don't need that on. Without that on itself, the sentence is completely accurate. Let's look at it. Young children should not sit close to the TV set as it affects their eyes, right? Not affects on their eyes. So here, again, just like how we saw in the previous, right? Into, it's an unnecessary preposition. I don't need this preposition here. Right? It's not superfluous. It's just that I don't need this preposition here. Right? So again, this is a prepositional error. Yeah? Clear? So we move forward. So far we've looked at unnecessary prepositions. The first one also can be categorized under superfluous meaning. The second one, it's just that I don't need this preposition here. Right? Without that itself, the sentence is meaningfully complete. Let's look at this one. Rohit was in need of money and sold out his gold medal for 200 rupees to one of his friends. Where do you think the error is? Again, you come across an unnecessary preposition here. Where is that? Are you able to identify that? Or not really a preposition. I would say, it's an unnecessary adverb in fact. So you've got the hang of it. So whichever is unnecessary, you remove that. In fact, out can also act as a preposition, no doubt, right? But in the context here, it's a adverb, right? Because sold itself gives me that meaning. He sold his gold medal. So I don't have to say sold out, which is incorrect, and that's not the meaning that we're looking at. In fact, sold out has a completely different meaning. Are you familiar with that? So, for example, in terms of a phrasal verb, we understand that a verb plus either a preposition or an adverb is a phrasal verb, right? Let's just look at that context. So, sold out, right? Sold is the verb, out is my adverb. So, sold out is a phrasal verb. So, when I say something is sold out, right? So if I say the match between Mumbai Kings and CSK, the tickets were sold out. If I say that, which means what? All the tickets, basically everybody kind of bought it. There is not a ticket left. Okay, that's what it means, right? So that's the meaning of sold out, and that's not the meaning that we need in the context. Yeah? Or there's a concert happening and you desperately are looking for tickets, but when you call them to find out, they say, we're sorry, all the tickets have been sold out, which means There are no more tickets left for the concert, right? And that's not the meaning that we need in this context. So Rohit was in need of money and he sold his gold medal for 200. So this is an unnecessary word here, like you very rightly said, and the error is in part C, where we need to get rid of the word out. Yeah. So far, we looked at the first two questions where it's a preposition error. I don't need that unnecessary word. It has a superfluous meaning as well in the first one. Penetrate into, not needed. The second one we saw again, unnecessary preposition. I don't need that. On, right? That's what it was. Affects on. And here again, I don't need that out, an unnecessary adverb. So one of the categories that you need to look out for when you're looking at spot the error is there an unnecessary preposition or an adverb? Right? So that's something that I want you to keep in mind. That's one of the first concepts or first strategies you need to, not strategy, first element that you need to look out for when it comes to spot the error. Is there an unnecessary word in the context?